You don't have a money problem. You have a control problem. And the cruel part is this. You already learned how to work hard. You already learned how to chase approval, to hit targets, to smile through stress. What you never learned was how to keep the fruits of that effort, not in theory, in daily behavior, in small automatic choices. In the moment your thumb reaches for add to cart and your brain calls it freedom, if you're watching this and you feel personally attacked, good. That means you recognize the mechanism, you recognize the leakage, you can be employed, you can be ambitious, you can even earn more than last year. Yet at the end of the month, you feel the same anxious emptiness, like your bank balance is teasing you, like the future is always slightly out of reach, like you're building your life with sand and someone keeps sprinkling water through invisible holes. Today, I'm going to tell you the uncomfortable truth people avoid because it forces them to look at themselves. Sometimes it's not that you lack money, it's that you never practiced owning money. You practiced receiving money, spending it, explaining it, pretending you'll fix it later, and later never arrives. This video is about the leakage mechanism, the way your finances slowly drain without you noticing, the way society designs the environment so you stay in motion, not in power, and the way you participate, sometimes willingly, sometimes numbly, in your own reduction. By the end, you'll understand why your efforts don't translate into stability. You'll see what you're feeding without permission, and you'll leave with a system that interrupts the bleeding, even when your discipline is tired. Let's start with the scene you already know. Picture your day. You wake up, you commute, you perform. 8 hours, 10 hours, sometimes 12. You stay loyal to your employer's goals because your brain learned loyalty equals safety. You run after KPIs like they're oxygen. You answer emails while your body is screaming. You swallow fatigue and call it professionalism. Then payday hits. You see the number. For a moment, your chest relaxes. You think, finally, stability. Finally, progress. And then the month ends. Not because you got unlucky, not because some disaster destroyed your income. It ends because the money didn't stay with you long enough to do anything meaningful. It evaporated into 1,000 small obligations and 1,000 emotional purchases: rent, utilities, internet, transport, subscriptions you forgot you even subscribed to, insurance you pay because canceling feels like risk, food delivery because cooking after a long day feels like punishment, coffee because you need a chemical reward to tolerate your own life, fashion upgrades because the old version of you feels inadequate, gadgets because your identity wants to be updated. And if you're thinking, but everyone has expenses, you're right. Everyone has expenses. But not everyone has the same relationship with money. Not everyone bleeds at the same rate. Not everyone builds the same container to hold value. The question isn't how much you make. The question is whether your system protects money from your emotions, from your environment, and from your habits. Your bank balance is not lying to you. It's reporting a daily surrender. Now let's say the sentence nobody wants to say out loud. Society doesn't want you rich. Not because of some movie villain, not because they'll kick you out of a club if you become successful. It's subtler than that. Society wants you functional, predictable, disposable. The ideal citizen is a consumer with a job, a card, and a monthly cycle of stress. A perfect consumer doesn't just buy. They panic, they buy again, and then they return to work to service what they just purchased. It's not an accident that modern life trains your brain to crave novelty like a dopamine subscription. It's not an accident that the feed is engineered to keep you alert, irritated, and slightly dissatisfied. It's not an accident that limited time offers are always limited and new arrivals are always arriving. Look at what's happening in the background. Retail doesn't just sell products, it sells feelings, belonging, status, youth, competence, safety. Your purchase becomes a tiny ritual that tells your nervous system, we're okay, you're okay. For a moment, the anxiety quiets. Then the anxiety returns, louder, because the purchase didn't solve the deeper problem, it only anesthetized it. And when your deeper problem remains unsolved, your spending becomes a loop, a payment plan for your own avoidance. This is how leakage begins. Not with a single reckless decision, with 1,000 small agreements you sign without reading the fine print. You agree to buy just this once because you deserve it. Then it happens again. You agree to upgrade because your old thing feels embarrassing. Then you feel fine for a day and empty again for the rest of the week. You agree to use credit because future you will handle it. Future you never shows up prepared. Future you shows up drowning. The leakage mechanism is not only financial, it's psychological. Let me give you a micro story. A person earns more than they did last year. They're proud of that. They tell friends, I finally leveled up, yet their sleep is worse. Their stress is constant. They scroll at night, not for fun, but for relief. During the day, they keep thinking about what they could purchase to make life feel more real. Then the credit card bill arrives. They don't see the bill as consequences. They see it as betrayal, like the world cheated them, like the number is unfair. But the number isn't unfair. The number is honest. The real story is your nervous system learned that purchases calm it, and your life gave that nervous system unlimited opportunities to be soothed temporarily. Your bank account became the final boss of every emotion you refused to face. You know what's brutal? The biggest threat to your financial life isn't low income. It's lack of control over the flow. It's your inability to map your money's path from arrival to disappearance. It's your habit of treating money like air. You inhale it, you exhale it, and then you wonder why you're still tired. If you can't explain where your money goes, you don't own it. You're just borrowing it from your future. There's a reason people avoid checking statements. It's not because they're busy, it's because the statement is a mirror. And mirrors are only frightening when you don't like what you see. When you open your bank app and you recognize patterns you didn't consciously choose, you feel exposed. You feel like you lost control. You feel like someone else is running your life. So you avoid, and avoidance is expensive. This is one of the most painful paradoxes of modern adulthood. We would rather suffer the pain of working harder than we would endure the pain of looking at the truth. Because looking at the truth forces you into responsibility, and responsibility requires you to change. Now we go deeper. The leakage mechanism has a structure. It's not random chaos. It's a design that feeds on small recurring costs. Most people don't lose money in one big dramatic purchase. They lose money in installments disguised as normal life. Think of the recurring subscription you barely use. Think of the small daily treat you tell yourself is harmless. Think of the delivery fees. Think of the extra charges. Think of the taxi because your schedule is always on fire. Think of the quick upgrade because your phone feels outdated and your brain thinks outdated equals worthless. It's always small. 200,000, 500,000, 1 million, again and again. And when those amounts stack, they become your actual rent, your real tuition, your secret payment for emotional relief. Financial predators know human psychology better than most humans know themselves. They understand that spending one big amount once hurts your identity. It makes you aware, but spending many small amounts feels like being normal. It feels invisible. It feels like it doesn't count. So they build systems that fragment your cost into 1,000 taps. They turn your lifestyle into a network of tiny drains. The leakage doesn't feel like theft because it happens politely. It happens with notifications. It happens with discounts. It happens with convenient payment methods. It happens with algorithms that learn your triggers faster than you learn your own habits. The feed says, you deserve this. The card says, sure. The app says, one click. The bank says, your balance is lower than expected, and you walk away calling it life. Now let's talk about the real enemy, not prices, not inflation, not complicated economics. The real enemy is your current rule of money. Most people operate with the same script, even if they never wrote it down. They bring income in, and then they subtract spending, and then they save what's left. If you save at the end, you treat savings like leftovers, and leftovers are never enough. Leftovers depend on your month being gentle. Leftovers depend on your mood being stable. Leftovers depend on your discipline not collapsing when life gets heavy. So leftovers become a myth, a motivational slogan, a habit you intend to start after the next bonus, after the next promotion, after the next vacation you book to reward yourself for surviving your life. Meanwhile, the system expects you to stay predictable. It expects you to keep feeding the cycle. It expects you to remain so busy chasing comfort that you never build an escape route. But the wealthy, and I mean the truly financially literate wealthy, follow a different rule. They save first. They decide that money belongs to them before it belongs to their appetites. They create a container before they create a desire. When your paycheck hits, a portion disappears immediately into protection, into investment, into emergency reserves, into skills that increase your future income, into long-term leverage. Only then do you allow the rest to flow into living. This is not a romantic idea, it's engineering. You're not being good with money. You're preventing your environment from hijacking your decisions during your weak moments. You're stopping your future self from being emotionally negotiated by your present self. And yes, it requires discipline, but it also requires design, because discipline is a fragile resource. Discipline is what you have when you're calm. Discipline dies when you're tired, stressed, lonely, or socially pressured. Design survives those conditions. So you automate the first payment to yourself. You make saving unavoidable, not optional, not based on mood. When people say I'll save 10% when things get better, what they really mean is I'm choosing convenience today over safety tomorrow, but I want the illusion that I'm still responsible. You can't afford illusions. Now, here's where we get brutally honest about identity. Many people don't just spend money, they spend to become someone in their own eyes and in the eyes of others. Your purchases are often an identity performance. You buy because you want to feel competent. You buy because you want to feel adult. You buy because you want to feel attractive. You buy because you want to prove you're not falling behind. Social media intensifies this. It turns your life into a comparison engine. It turns your nervous system into a scoreboard. It creates a constant background noise of inadequacy. Then you reach for consumer solutions to self-esteem. The logic is terrifyingly simple. If I can buy the right thing, maybe I won't feel like I'm losing. So you spend, and spending temporarily changes your mood. It doesn't solve your insecurity. It just delays confronting it. This is why leakage continues even when income rises, because the spending isn't driven by income. It's driven by emotion. It's driven by the need to manage shame, fear, and social pressure. You might say, but I'm not buying luxury. You might say, I'm just buying what I need. Sometimes you are, but often you're not. Often you're buying what you tell yourself is necessary because you refuse to see what it actually is. It's emotional anesthesia. And emotional anesthesia becomes a habit, a dependency, a lifestyle. Now let's address another comfortable lie. I would save, but I have no time. That's another identity defense. The real issue isn't time, it's avoidance. Because saving requires one uncomfortable skill: tracking. Tracking is psychological exposure. It forces you to see your behavior patterns without the comforting story you tell yourself. When you write down every expense, you're not doing accounting, you're doing self-investigation. You're discovering the exact places where your money meets your coping mechanisms. You'll notice how often you shop when you're anxious. You'll notice how often you eat out when you feel lonely. You'll notice how frequently you subscribe to things you don't use because the act of signing up gives you hope. Hope for a better version of yourself that never arrives because you keep paying the entrance fee to distraction. A month of tracking is a month of truth. 30 days of seeing what your money buys in your mind. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's why people resist it. That's why they call it tedious. That's why they push the responsibility onto some vague future where they will be more organized. No, they resist because the ledger is a judge. So this is your first real step out of the leakage mechanism. Don't start with spreadsheets to impress yourself. Start with a decision. I will know where every unit of money goes. You don't need fancy tools. You need honesty. Then, with honesty, you can choose, and choice is power. Now we go to the deeper layers that most money advice never touches. Debt is not only a financial instrument, it's a behavioral trap. Debt manages your future by threatening your present. If you carry balances, you stop dreaming, you stop experimenting, you stop taking risks. You become cautious not because you are wise, but because you are afraid. Fear makes you conservative. Fear makes you loyal to the wrong job. Fear makes you endure exploitation because leaving feels dangerous. Your life shrinks because your obligations tighten. Credit score systems in developed countries and similar financial scoring mechanisms everywhere all do the same thing. They convert your financial behavior into your social rating. They encourage debt because debt becomes a proof of compliance. They reward the ability to repay, not the ability to build. So people end up trapped in a loop where their monthly payments are an invisible leash. They don't feel chained, they feel responsible, they feel adult, they feel maintaining credit. But the psychological outcome is the same. You stop moving toward freedom because you're managing a bill. Modern slavery doesn't always look like chains. Sometimes it looks like autopay. Sometimes it looks like I can't quit because I have a mortgage. Sometimes it looks like I can't change careers because my student loans will ruin me. Sometimes it looks like I need to keep my lifestyle because my phone is on installments. And you can keep believing it's normal. You can keep calling it life. But inside, your time belongs to the payment schedule. And the worst part is when you think the solution is to work longer rather than to think smarter. Working longer feels productive. It feels like progress. It gives you the illusion of control. But if your spending pattern leaks without being addressed, additional work becomes fuel for the fire. You get paid more and you burn more. The container stays the same size. The holes stay open. That's why the bucket metaphor matters. If your bucket has holes, pouring more water doesn't fix the bucket. It just empties faster. So we don't start by pouring more. We start by plugging. The leakage mechanism plugs are not glamorous. They are boring rules. Here are 3 rules that will change your life if you treat them like law, not advice. First, value your purchases in time, not in price. Before you buy anything, ask one question. How many hours of my life does this cost? A bag that costs 3 million in your currency is not 3 million. It's a week of work where your attention was rented out. It's a week where your body served someone else's deadlines. It's a week where you postponed rest, postponed family presence, postponed calm. You need to feel that equation, not intellectually, emotionally. Because when you convert money into time, you automatically stop making purchases that don't deserve your lifespan. You stop buying to escape. You start buying because you chose it. Second, you attack and you defend. Attacking means increasing income. That matters. But defending is where freedom is built. In a football game, offense alone doesn't win. If you only score but never defend, you lose because the opponent will eventually break through. Your finances need defense. Defense means cutting waste. It means closing financial holes. It means identifying your recurring drains and deleting them. It means learning to survive discomfort without buying your way out of it. Defense means protecting your money like a living thing, because it is. A lot of people treat money like a pile of numbers. But money behaves like energy. If you constantly spend it, you drain your future self. Third, automate your freedom. Don't rely on your future